dispute between the current in that day's current. It was like this is in 1963. Um, their main baddie, Buddy Rogers, WWE, well, WWF was main guy. Buddy Rogers was supposed to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship,
Mm-hmm.
and back then it was decided the champion was decided in a match that was 2 out of 3 falls, and
Okay.
Buddy won it, but he was supposed to lose it, and
Ah.
Jess McMahon and Toots Mott were like, "No, we have him booked. Um, we have him booked for these dates, and he's supposed to be champion, but the title changed hands, but the WWF didn't recognize it. They still call Buddy
Okay.
Rogers the champion, and it was just back and forth. So finally, the WWF decided to leave the NWA. So
Okay.
they left the NWA and they named Buddy Rogers the first WWF World Heavyweight Champion. So Buddy
Okay.
Rogers is technically the first, well, not technically, he is the first WW now E champion.
Okay.
So yeah,
That was rough.
yeah, that was a lot. but but later, back in 1971, they secretly joined back in with the NWA. They just had an agreement that they have their own world champion until they
Right.
finally left again in 1983, and that was
Okay.
for good. So, and kind of also funny story that Vince McMahon does own the back catalog of the NWA.
What does back catalog mean?
Their filmed matches.
Okay. Huh. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so anything that's filmed before a certain date, I believe in the 90s, the WWE owns. Vince McMahon and
Okay.
WWE owns. So
Okay.
like he did like there's a misconception with certain people that think that the WWE owns the current iteration of the NWA. No, they don't. They're totally separate.
Okay. Got it.
So
Hmm.
yeah. So Vince Jr. Meets his father when he's age 12. He graduates from East Carolina University with a degree in business 1968, and he immediately goes to work for his father, Vincent J. McMahon.
Okay.
Vince Sr. didn't want Vince Jr. in the business, but he relented.
Okay.
So he was like, oh fine, he just keeps bothering me about it. He's got a degree. So he started him out low and he did everything, fixed the ring, worked with the talent, announcer.
Okay.
He pretty much did everything. Because Vince hated his job, because before he worked for his father, he was a traveling salesman and he hated it. So
Really? Okay.
so finally he gets up to a managerial role in the Worldwide Wrestling Federation.
Okay.
Then he becomes a ring announcer and does play-by-play during most of the 70s. He becomes a pretty much prominent force in his father's company. He assists his father in tripling the TV syndication
Oh wow.
of the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. He pushes for the company to rename the World Wrestling Federation, which it does. Vince McMahon was also one of the main promoter behind a Muhammad Ali Antonio Inoki match in 1976.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and Antonio Inoki, I'm not going to get into Antonio Inoki, but he's a big deal in Japan. Like,
Okay.
Antonio Inoki, he's
Wrestling is huge. Wrestling.
wrestling is huge in
Yeah.
Japan. Wrestling
Yeah.
is totally like watching a Japanese show and watching an American show. Wow, it's just totally different. But Antonio Inoki, he's famous professional wrestler, mixed martial artist. He's also a politician. He was elected to, because of his fame in wrestling, he was elected to the Diet of Japan, the Congress of Japan, multiple times.
Terrorizing. Terrifying, rather.
you would think like, oh
takes.
my god, like Jesse Ventura, he becomes governor of Minnesota. That's terrifying. Like I don't know too much about Japanese politics.
Jesse Ventura didn't do that bad.
Yeah, he only served one term.
Yeah, he wasn't the worst though.
Yeah,
he sounded very political.
Yeah, and now he
sounded
on
very,
TV.
known.
Yeah, now he's on TV going, this is their secret cabal of things that's going to get you, brother.
Secret cabal.
Yeah. In 1979, Vince McMahon and his wife Linda founded their own company, Titan Sports, which they incorporated the following year in 1980. In 1982, he acquired control of the Capital Wrestling Corporation from his ailing father, who later passed away in May of 1984. In February 1980, Vince McMahon Jr. officially founded Titan Sports, and the company's headquarters were established in Massachusetts using the now defunct Cape Cod Coliseum as a home base for the company. He bought a whole Coliseum, and they did most of that was their home base. McMahon became chairman of the company, and his wife Linda became co-chief executive.
Linda put out a lot of money.
Yeah,
get all these titles and whatnot.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you get married to the most powerful man in professional wrestling. Luckily, they didn't take that. The most powerful
man.
Yeah, luckily
something tells me she put in a lot of money too. All these official titles and whatnot.
Yeah, but she's just as shady too.
Are you talking about her or her character?
Her. No, her.
Are you sure?
Yes. This woman tried to run for Connecticut Senate twice. Luckily, she lost, but the crap she was saying, I'm not going to get into it. I'm just not going to get into it. I'm just not.
Sorry, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah. So, so Vince Jr. could trade changes. Well, it comes in charge of Capital Wrestling. He changed it to Titan Sports Incorporated. And he's like, look, we got to go national. And he'd been pushing to go national. And his father kind of resisted going national because it was still, even though they weren't part of the NWA, it would still look like a gentleman's agreement between the various promoters across the country. Like, hey, we're not going to go national. Vince throws it out and says, I'm going fucking national. I'm going to make this the biggest wrestling company in the country, if not the world. So he proceeds to go national. He sees to expand the company national by promoting areas outside of the company's northeast territory and signing talent from other companies. The biggest one that he signed away is a guy called Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
Hulk Hogan, a little history on Hulk Hogan, wrestling history. I'm not going to talk about his personal life because Hulk Hogan had wrestled various companies and was during late 70s was working consequently for Vince Sr. And then Hulk Hogan got a audition for a film and he got the roles. Rocky 3.
That's right.
But Vince Sr. told him, do not audition and do not take the role.
Oh, well, he ignored that.
He ignored it, and Vince Sr. fired him right then and there. So he takes the role, does it, and then Rocky takes the role, does various other territories and stuff. It goes back to Japan, and then Rocky 3 becomes a hit. So immediately, once it becomes a hit, the American Wrestling Association, the AWA, another former wrestling promotion, mainly based in Minnesota, was like, come on, we got to capitalize on this. Come on. It becomes one of their biggest things. But the AWA really don't pull the trigger on Hulk Hogan becoming the AWA champion. The AWA champion at the time was a guy named Nick Bockwinkel, who was around, I think, in his 50s at that time. And he was constantly screwing over Hogan, getting disqualified, not losing the title, and Hogan was coming frustrated. It was like, look, I'm your most number one guy, but you're not putting the title on me, which means a big thing. And they were just like, in the the promoter and owner at the time, a guy named Vern Gagne, was just like, be patient, be patient. So Vince Jr. saw that, was like offered a bunch of money. He was like, I'll put the title on you right now. I'll make you the biggest thing in the world. So Hogan was like, okay. And he jumped ship to the WWE and he immediately becomes a megastar.
Right.
And
so they knew what they were doing.
Yeah,
he knew what they were doing.
He knew what he was doing. So he creates Vince McMahon creates the rock and wrestling connection by incorporating pop music stars into wrestling storylines. As a result, the WWF was able to expand its fan base into a national mainstream audience as the promotion was featured heavily on MTV.
Yeah.
Like you have like professional wrestlers mingling with pop stars, Cyndi Lauper, I don't think David Bowie, but Tina Turner, like a bunch of pop stars. And it cultivates into this event on March 31st, 1985, which becomes the first WrestleMania.
Okay.
And it's available on closed circuit television that day. And it pretty much, this was the first WrestleMania was really kind of a make or break for the WWF, because Vince McMahon sucked a lot of money into this thing. And if it was a success, it probably would have bankrupted the company. And like, you look at WWE's history, they will say, well, this is the grandmother, the grandfather of them all and stuff. Like nothing was done before this, which was kind of a lie. Well, not kind of a lie. It was a lie, because a couple of years later, Jim Crockett Promotions were part of the NWA, and really the NWA's number one promotion had ran a what really was considered the first pay-per-view closed circuit event called Starrcade.
Okay.
2 years before that, and that was a success. So Vince was like, "Oh, I could do that, but do it better." And yeah, in terms of pure wrestling, you look at, if you go back and watch, which both are available, I believe. It used to be the WWE Network, but they shut that down in the United States.
Right.
So now everything's on Peacock, and it sucks. But if you're able to find it on Peacock, which is there, the first WrestleMania and the first Starrcade.
Right.
And you can watch them back to back, and you can make the judgment yourself, which is a better show. Yeah, WrestleMania was more spectacular. They had Muhammad Ali there. They had Liberace. Mr. T was in a match. It was a celebrity spectacular, which we know of today. And the first Starrcade is pure wrestling.
Right.
So to wrestling purists, or ones who like prefer more wrestling as compared to sports entertainment, we would prefer Starrcade. Even though some of it's like, both of them are pretty kind of hard to watch after watching modern wrestling, but still you prefer Starrcade. But still, WrestleMania was a success. It became a huge success. And it helped usher in 80s professional wrestling boom that is now called the Golden Age era. It was so big that Hulk Hogan is the first and only professional wrestler to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Really?
Yeah.
That was definitely during the time of me and my older brother's wrestling fandom. Mm-hmm. I was trying to think of the name of the duo whose name I will not remember. Iron something Iron? I don't know.
Iron Sheik? No, not the Iron Sheik.
No. Iron Sheik is an individual. Yeah, no, but maybe it was two guys, and they had on, they wore big, almost like sharp black shoulder pads, and they had the paint of their faces, and they
Demolition or the Road Warriors?
The Road Warriors.
The Road Warriors. Yeah, the Road Warriors. Funny story about that. The Road Warriors were the biggest thing in the NWA territories, and Vince McMahon tried to sign them initially, and they had said no. So he got mad and created Demolition, which was a ripoff of the Road Warriors. And then
Road
finally,
Warriors are awesome.
Vince was able to sign the Road Warriors, but they couldn't take the Road Warriors name because that was owned by Jim Crockett Productions later.
Okay.
Ted Turner.